Well, the 79th session of the UN General Assembly will be Joe Biden's final appearance before the world body as U.S. president. His final speeches are expected to lay the foundation for U.S. alliances ahead of the November election. And the White House says the 81-year-old leader will pull in all efforts to ensure his achievements from international alliances to climate change mitigation are irreversible. But one goal seems elusive. Mr. Biden had set his sights on securing a Gaza ceasefire before leaving office in January next year. Instead, the opposite seems to be playing out as the war in Gaza nears its one-year mark and cross-border attacks result in hundreds dead in Lebanon as Israel and Hezbollah continue their missile volley. Also topping the agenda, Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the political upheaval in Venezuela. The UN General Assembly will conclude Monday. Mitch McCann joins us live from New York on one of those topics. Mitch, let's go to comments by the Ukrainian president. He's been holding a flurry of bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the summit. What are we hearing on what was on the table at those meetings and what came out of them?
Well, good morning from the United Nations headquarters. It certainly has been a busy week already for Volodymyr Zelensky, and it's only Tuesday here local time. Zelensky arrived in the United States over the weekend to the state of Pennsylvania, where he was greeted by the governor, Josh Shapiro, and the pair went to an ammunition factory in the small city of Scranton. Now, that factory is responsible for making many of the much-needed munitions that are being transported to Ukraine as part of US aid packages. Zelensky has now arrived here in New York, where he spoke yesterday at the Summit of the Future at the United Nations, which is really an initiative launched by the Secretary-General aimed at reforming the UN, making it fit for purpose for the 21st century. Now, Zelensky and all the other leaders speaking at that event were only allocated 3 minutes to speak, but Zelensky used his time to criticise Russia for trying to derail the pact a day earlier. But as you see it on the sidelines of this event, he has been holding many bilateral meetings already with the leaders of India, Germany and Japan. Now, this is likely attempts to shore up support for what is going to be a critical few months ahead for Ukraine as it heads into winter. Ukraine really seeking permission from Western allies to fire some more of these munitions deeper into Russia to target its ammunition factories, something it's been after for some time now. Now, we know Zelensky will also speak 2 more times at the UN this week at the Security Council meeting, as well as the General Assembly debate. He'll then head to the White House on Thursday, where he'll meet with the US President Joe Biden in what will be one of the most critical meetings while he is in the United States. He intends to present what he's called his plan for peace in Ukraine, a final plan for peace. He'll then meet with Kamala Harris, where he'll present that to her, the Democratic nominee for president, and he's also trying to arrange a meeting with Donald Trump to present that plan as well. So a very, very busy meeting of diplomacy and bilateral talks for Volodymyr Zelensky in the US this week.
Busy indeed. Meanwhile, let's focus on the UN General Assembly proper. What can we expect from the first day of the session?
Well, of course, looming over the first session at the moment is the escalating situation in Lebanon and in the Middle East, where it's reported more than 500 people have died in the last 24 hours in Lebanon. We expect the Secretary-General to make comments on that situation this morning before the General Assembly itself begins. We're also going to hear this morning from the leader of the United States. President Joe Biden is going to be the second speaker after Brazil this morning, and he's likely to tout his foreign policy accomplishments. As you mentioned, it is his final speech to the United Nations as president, choosing not to seek re-election. So he's probably going to talk about trying to rebuild the Western alliance, something that he sees as one of his accomplishments, that Western alliance in support of Ukraine. He's also probably going to talk about his China policy. Of course, Joe Biden met with President Xi in San Francisco last November, and his national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, met with President Xi in recent weeks as well. But really looming over Joe Biden's speech is these multiple catastrophes around the world at the moment. Wars in Sudan, wars in Ukraine, and the unfolding crisis in the Middle East, where Joe Biden is likely trying to de-escalate tensions there, and that is something he may speak about as well. And we know that Joe Biden will speak this morning, but also we're hearing reports that Najib Mikati, The Lebanese Prime Minister is also going to attend after initially choosing not to come to the United Nations, but in light of recent developments, will be attending here in New York.
Look, Mitch, we really appreciate you keeping an eye on that long list of developments there. Mitch McCann reporting live from New York.